Texans have no time to waste on day one of training camp. 3 key matchups I'm going to be looking for.
Big Sarge.
Hey, what's going on, y'all? You're tuning to the Texas Tailgate Talk podcast. I'm your host, Big Sarge. Make sure you follow me on the app formerly known as Twitter at Big Sarge Sports with the Z at the end. Follow me on the Tick and the Talk at Big Sarge Media. Make sure you are subscribed to the Texas Tailgate Talk podcast, all one word, Texas Tailgate Talk podcast and YouTube channel. And make sure you follow me on Instagram at Big Sarge Sports with the Z at the end, because you know we do everything for the gram. All right, it's after midnight on July 23rd, Wednesday, July 23rd, just a tad teeny winch after midnight. I want to make sure that I was the first local media member and Texas content creator to bring you this podcast. Listen, I'm excited like it's the first day of school. I love, watching other sports. Don't get me wrong. I like watching baseball. I love covering basketball. Shout out to the Houston Rockets. But it's just something about football that just gets me going. Like, it's just something about football that just makes me it just gets me excited. And it looks like that the season has returned in the blink of an eye. I honestly and truly feel like I was just talking to you all about the Houston Texans going up against the Kansas City Chiefs in the divisional round of the playoffs. But we bike. Like, we are officially bike. As the players reported on Tuesday, training camp will begin on Wednesday, today. We will speak with Nick Caserio at 8:45 a.m. and then 9 p.m. sharp. Training camp will start, and then we'll be able to talk to Texas head coach DeMeco Ryans and a couple of the players afterwards. But we here, y'all. We are here. And look, Houston Texans fans, I hope that you all are just as excited as I am about football season being back. I don't get me wrong. I understand, if you ain't up at this time, I am. But this is how it's going to be for the entire season. I'm going to give you this type of content on a consistent basis. So make sure you're make sure you're subscribed to the Texans Tailgate Talk podcast and YouTube channel, all one word. All right, so just like I started the show, the Texans have no time to waste on day one of training camp. And look, I know that there's going to be a lot of reporting. The key focus for I feel like the key focus throughout training camp is going to be about the offensive line. And I understand everybody's going to be watching and seeing what the offensive line is going to do. I have 3 matchups that I'm going to take a look at right off the rip. When I tell you that as soon as they go into team drill 1 and they go into 11 on 11, that's first team offense versus first team defense, I'm going to be looking at these matchups because there are certain things that I want to see. There's certain things that I want to see, and I need to observe, and I need to see them at day one, like right off the rip. So, yes, I will be reporting about the offensive line, but there's 3 matchups that we need to worry about and observe on day one. I mean, you know what? Worry is maybe a bad word. I mean, it's the first day. I don't want to say worry. So worry is a wrong choice of words. There are 3 matchups that I will be observing and reporting on back to you all. And here's the first one. Texas rookie wide receiver Jaden Higgins versus second-year cornerback Kamari Lassiter. Kamari Lassiter coming into this season after having 1 year under his belt of not only, on-field experience, but being able to learn from all pro cornerback in Derek Stingley Jr. I mean, when you look at Kamari Lassiter, he emulates everything that Derek Stingley does. He emulates that, and then he puts it into his own style, his own way. Last season, after the Houston Texans beat the Los Angeles Chargers in the wild card game, I don't think that Kamari had a catch, a catch put on him. Like, I don't think a receiver had caught one pass against him. And after the game, Derek Stingley was like, he different. And Kamari is different. If you watch the Houston Texans, you know that Kamari is different. He pounds his head after he makes a play. He is not afraid to come down and run support. He's not afraid of contact, and he's becoming a really good cover corner. But one of the reasons why he became a cover corner like that, not just because of the intestinal fortitude that he had, not just because of the tutelage of Dino Vasso, not just because being around Derek Stingley Jr. Kamari Lassiter was trial by fire last season, because every time he looked up, he had a good wide receiver in front of him. It was either Nico Collins was in front of him, or at the time, former Texas wide receiver Stephon Diggs was in front of him, or Tank Dell was in front of him. Every time he looked up, there was a receiver, a really good receiver that was standing in front of him, ready to be like, hey, look, I know you're a rookie, but I'm not going to take it easy on you. That's just the only way that you're going to learn. And some of the battles he won, some of the battles he lost. Some of the battles he won, some of the battles he lost. But that going through training camp and having to go up against the wide receivers that he went up against, that helped him out a lot. That's the exact same thing that I think is going to happen to Jaden Higgins. That's exactly the same thing that I think is going to happen to rookie Jaden Higgins. Because the matchup that's going to be going on the opposite side of the field. Now, look, everybody knows the Houston Texans mantra is iron sharpens iron, right? Iron sharpens iron. So we already know that Stingley and Nico Collins, they're going to be matched up. They're going to be matched up a lot because that's one-on-one, good on good. Like that's them matched up one-on-one. But maybe sometimes whatever play that new offense coordinator Nick Caley decides to call, hey, look, it may be a point to where Nico's on the opposite side of the field, and now Jaden Higgins has to line up in front of Stingley. But for the most part, he's going to be lined up probably as the number 2 wide receiver. I'm just going to go ahead and say that. He's probably going to be the number 2 wide receiver lined up in front of Kamari Lassiter, and Kamari is not going to give him nothing. And that's the way that D'Amico wants it. Don't get me wrong. That's the way he wants it. But Kamari also knows I got to make you better. Just like Nico and Stephon and Tank did me last season, it is my job to make you better. So I'm not finna take it easy on you because you're a rookie. I'm about to teach you I'm about to teach you how they play differently in the NFL. How cornerbacks and defensive schemes are called in the NFL. And so that matchup is going to be good because now don't forget, hold on, let me give me my roster right quick so I can just make sure that I have it. Jaden Higgins is 6'4", 215 pounds. Him and Nico are pretty much the same height and weight. And so Kamari is also going to have to be matched up against a big wide receiver no matter what. No matter if it's Jaden Higgins in front of him or if they flip it and Nico Collins is in front of him. So that's also going to make Kamari better going up against those bigger wide receivers. And so some of those bigger wide receivers that he may see later on in the season, he'll be able to go back to training camp and use some of that stuff that he learned in training camp. But for Jaden Higgins, one thing that D'Amico always says is, hey, when we draft you and we bring you in here, we're expecting you to be ready from day one. Now, everybody know D'Amico has played the game, so he knows that there's going to be some things that these rookies are not going to know. All right, we're going to make, we got a little leeway, for that type of stuff. We got a little leeway for them to learn the speed of the game, but you should be ready to contribute for day one. That's why we brought you here. That's why we drafted you. And so as soon as Jaden Higgins lines up across from Kamari Lassiter, it's go time. And Jaden Higgins is a really good wide receiver. He's a really good wide receiver. So I don't think that Kamari is just going to dog him out, but Kamari is a really good defensive back. And so I feel like, hey, they're going to get each other. But that's a matchup that I want to see. Because on the opposite side, Nico's going to win some reps. Stingley's going to win some reps. That's just a given. That's just how they went. No one player is going to win all the reps. And on the opposite side, Kamari may be able to win the majority of them only because he's able to pull from his experience on playing actual game time, actual game reps that Jaden Higgins doesn't have yet. But once they get going, because I'm definitely going to revisit this towards the end of training camp, and we'll come right back here and we'll end training camp talking about these matchups that we watch. But this matchup in particular between Jaden Higgins and Kamari Lassiter, I think that's going to be one for the ages. And what I mean by one for the ages is you're going to see both of them take another step. Even though it's not NFL game reps just yet, the Texans practice like they're in a game. That's the one thing that I can say about them. D'Amico don't let them half-ass at practice. Because if you half-ass, he'll put you on the sideline. And if he puts you on the sideline, he's going to give you another opportunity. And if you half-ass it again, you're out. I've seen some players not give they all. And then I seen them up and out of here. So when Jaden Higgins lines up across from Kamari, in Kamari's mind, hey, this is a game. This ain't training camp. This ain't the first day of training camp. This just ain't practice. This is a game time rep to me. And that's what he's going to teach Jaden Higgins, which, listen, I don't think that Jaden Higgins will show up and not be ready. What I'm saying is that Kamari is going to be ready. Second matchup I want to see. I want to see Christian Kirk versus Jalen Petrie. And I think that that's one of the ones that will get interesting because, Christian Kirk plays in the slot. Jalen Petrie is the slot corner. We know that Jalen Petrie missed the majority of the back half of the season last year due to an injury. And this is Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk came over from the Jacksonville Jaguars. So as he's learning, this offense as well, you got Jalen Petrie, who is getting reacclimated to being back on the field and being back in that slot that nickel cornerback / linebacker position. Something that I spoke about a lot last season. I feel like I was one of the first ones who talked about that Jalen Petrie is more than just a nickel back for the Houston Texans. He's also like another linebacker for them because of the way he's able to play in the run game, that run support that he gives, and able to play in areas as far as the areas in the passing game, in these short areas that he can play in it, and he can extend it out a little bit. Now, if you get him going up the field, then that's a whole different story. But Christian Kirk going against Jalen Petrie, because Christian Kirk is a veteran. Christian Kirk is only thing that he's going to be doing is learning to learning Nick Caley's offensive playbook. He already knows. He already has all the intangibles of playing wide receiver in the NFL. He just has to get acclimated, right? And then, get acclimated to being back playing. Because if I'm not mistaken, I think Christian Kirk was hurt last season as well. But for Jalen Petrie, it's been a while since he's had like real contact. It's been a while since he's been in real game since he had real game time reps. And so, he was out there in OTAs. He was out there for OTAs. He was out there, for mini camp. And that isn't the same as what he's about to go through in training camp. And so he just has to get his footing back up under him. And remember, last year was his first time playing that nickel position for in the NFL for the Houston Texans. That was his first time. And so, and hey, he was good at it. He was good at it. There was a lot of times that he was forcing turnovers, either for himself or for others. Neville Hewitt got an interception because of him last season. I think that was against the Packers, if I'm not mistaken, on the first drive of the game. But Jalen Petrie can play that position. He just has to get back acclimated to playing it. And so, him versus Christian Kirk. And Christian Kirk, just like I said about Higgins and Lassiter, Christian Kirk not going to take it easy on them. They don't take it easy on each other because that's the only way you're going to get better. But going up against Christian Kirk on a consistent basis throughout training camp and even in practice is going to help Jalen Petrie because he's going to see, Christian Kirk type wide receivers throughout the season. And now with him coming back off of injury, with him, getting another year of playing the nickel corner under his belt, he's going to need that. He's going to need somebody like a Christian Kirk to do what he's doing to him. He's going to need Christian Kirk to go out there just like what Stephon Diggs was doing last season against Jalen Petrie, and how they would go against each other, and then at the end of practice they would talk about, hey, this is how I beat you on this route. This is how I was able to beat you on this route. You went for this move. If you see a wide receiver coming out making that move, just hold on for a second because he's maybe trying to give you a false step and he's going somewhere else. And in turn, Jalen Petrie, would tell Stephon Diggs, hey, look, when you come out, you may see me line up one way, but at the snap of the ball, I'm going somewhere else. So these are the keys and the indicators when you're playing against these nickel corners, what you need to look for, right? Against these nickel corners, these are some of the things that you need to look for. And so him and Christian Kirk, I believe, will be able to bounce off of each other like that, which will be a very, very good thing for both of them. Very good thing for both of them. But I need to see as time goes on, because one thing that Higgins and one thing that Christian Kirk has on their side is that they have a quarterback in CJ Stroud going into his third year with a point to prove. He has a point to prove. He has a point to prove. Nick Caley, first year, calling the plays, he has a point to prove. And with that, now they're trying CJ gonna do whatever he can to make Higgins and Kirk better, all the while making himself better, all the while learning that playbook and going up against some of the best talent in the AFC in Kamari Lassiter and Jalen Petrie. So I'm just interested to see that because it's also going to be a mind game in these matchups, in these wide receivers versus these cornerback matchups. And I'm talking about, and look, you can throw Nico and Stingley in there as well. There's going to be mind games played on both sides. Not only CJ going up against those defensive backs, but also DeMeco Ryans and Matt Burke calling those defensive plays, going up against Nick Caley. And so that's why I chose that's why I chose those first two matchups, because with the offensive line, cool, we're going to be watching that, but we're also going to have to watch and see how are these wide receivers adapting. Higgins is new, Kirk is new. Both of them have to get adapted to playing with CJ Stroud. Both of them have to get their timing down with CJ Stroud. Both of them are, the good thing is they're learning a new playbook for the first time. The good thing is they got CJ Stroud going into his third year with a point to prove. And so they're all going to have to get on the same page. But as they're doing that, they still got to go up against that defense. He still got to go up against Lassiter. And he still got to go up against Jalen Petrie. So that's just two of the matchups. When we come back from the break, we'll talk about the third one. We'll be back.
Hi, Laura Williams coming to you here from Easy Honda. Just want to remind you that this is my new home, and here at Easy Honda, we are here to take care of all your vehicle needs. From new vehicles to pre-owned vehicles, we've got what you are looking for. And if you're a business and you're looking for vehicles, we've got a great selection here at our dealership. For any information on getting your next vehicle here at Easy Honda, you can reach me at 281-224-3666. Remember to ask for Laura Williams. We make it easy here at Easy Honda.
Hey, welcome back. You're tuning into the Texas Tailgate Talk podcast. I'm your host, Big Sarge. Now, before we went to the break, we were talking about 2 out of the 3 matchups that I'm going to be looking at day one of Houston Texans training camp. And that's rookie wide receiver Jaden Higgins versus second-year player Kamara, the second-year cornerback Kamara Lassiter. That's Christian Kirk going up against Jalen Petrie. And the third one, this is where it gets interesting. This is where it gets interesting to me, because nothing has been, set in stone yet when it comes to the offensive line. But by looking at OTAs and by looking at mandatory minicamp, I feel like the tackles are going to be, the right tackle is going to be Blake Fisher, and the left tackle is going to be Cam Robinson, right? The right tackle is going to be Blake Fisher, and the left tackle is going to be Cam Robinson. This third and final matchup that I'm looking at, how are those two going to hold up against defensive ends Will Anderson Jr. and Danielle Hunter? That's a tall task, as they like to say. Like, they got their hands full, because we already know that duo right there between Hunter and Anderson, they're like top 5 duo in the NFL. The way that they can put pressure on a quarterback, the way that they can sack a quarterback, the way that they can disrupt a play, the way that they cause so much havoc at the snap of the ball. If Cam Robinson and Blake Fisher are not ready, it's going to be a long day for that offense. It's going to be a long day for that offense. It's going to be a long day for new offensive line coach Cole Popovich. And I'm going to tell you like this, just like I've said previously during this podcast, I'll say it again. Hey, these boys not playing. And what I mean by boys, I'm not, belittling them or degrading them, because they are young men, grown men. And I'm using boys in the term of, the football term, like, these boys be balling, right? These boys be balling. I'm using it in that type of in that type of way. If Fisher and Cam Robinson aren't ready, I don't know what to tell you. I don't even know if they'll be able to stay on the field by the third week of training camp. If they can't control or slow down or stop Will and Danielle, if they can't slow them down, then you're going to have to start thinking about moving your line around. That's why in the offseason, I asked D'Amico Ryans, hey man, you got a lot of offensive linemen that could play different positions. Now we know that Cam Robinson is not a swing tackle. We know that Cam Robinson is a left tackle and a left tackle only. So if you have to replace him, you may have to look at throwing in a rookie in Ariante Ursary. You may have to look at, maybe trying to take Titus and put him at right tackle and see if you can move Blake to left tackle, or Trent Brown, or so. Like, you're gonna have to find a way to figure it out, because the Houston Texans don't have time to do what they did last season. And last season, one of the things that I said when I was on the former show was Nick Caserio has a lot to do with the way that the Houston Texans offensive line ended up being ranked. And you asking yourself, well, Sarge, how the hell can you blame it on Nick Caserio? Because I watched Nick Caserio watch practice the entire time. I watched Nick Caserio watch as none of those, that starting offensive line unit that started game 1 against the Indianapolis Colts, they hadn't played together until the last week of training camp. And I kept telling some of my colleagues, hey, man, they can't just come off the sidelines and think that they're just going to gel. And now I'm saying, well, Nick Caserio, your job is to get the groceries. D'Amico Ryan's job is to cook the groceries. Like, his job is to cook. Your job is to go and get the groceries. You got to make sure that you are ready from day one. And I'm saying to myself, you're watching this offensive line not perform. That offensive line, and I'm not talking about, like I said, the offensive line unit the starting 5 did not play together as a unit until the last week of training camp. So now what you're doing is you're standing at the other end of the field and you're watching this and you're seeing that these backups aren't ready. These backups aren't ready. That defense was killing that Texans offense last year. And that defensive line was killing that offensive line. Nick Caserio watched every practice. I'm not here to blame Nick Caserio for the performance, because he can only go and get players. He can't perform for them. He can only put them on the field. But as he watched, because I'm watching, and I'm not an NFL GM, never have been. Hey, look, if they can give the job to the little young dude down in Jacksonville, then they could dang sure give Sarge a try. That's neither here nor there. But if I'm seeing it and I'm watching and I'm saying, hey, Nick, are you seeing this? Especially in Ohio, I was like, bro, ain't nobody else watching this. You can't see this. Like, okay, all right, I get it. You had Kenyon Green, who was coming back off of injury. You got to give him time. You had Blake Fisher, who was a rookie. You had to give him time. You had Juice Scruggs, who missed the majority of the prior season due to injuries and came back late. All right, I got it. All right. But at some point, right, because Shaq Mason was in the lineup, was in and out of the lineup as well. But at some point, you're looking and you're saying, something just ain't right. Nick, something isn't right. And look, I know that offensive linemen are not just waiting around to be picked up by teams. Good offensive linemen are not just waiting to be picked up by teams. Maybe they could have made a trade last season. Maybe a trade could have been made, but then you got to also have a willing team to trade with you. That offensive line, we knew going into the season that they were going to have trouble. So now Nick is going to get an opportunity to watch again. And that matchup between Cam Robinson and Cam Robinson and Blake Fisher going up against Will Anderson Jr. and Danielle Hunter, that's going to let you know a lot. We're not even talking about the interior part of the line yet. We're going to talk about that at a later date. I'm not even talking about the interior part of the line going up against those defensive tackles who are a little bit older but more experienced. and they still got some dog in them. And I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about these bookends. One in Cam Robinson, who's got to protect CJ's blind side. Laramie Tunsil is no longer here. The Pro Bowl left tackle, he's no longer with the Houston Texans. It is Cam Robinson's job to lose. CJ knew what he had in Laramie Tunsil. Say what you want. He was comfortable with Laramie Tunsil, knowing that Laramie got my backside. Laramie ain't finna let me get hit like that. Laramie ain't finna let me get sacked like that. So he knew that. Now, on top of learning this new playbook, he's also going to have to worry about his blind side. And if Daniil's going to probably be up against Cam Robinson a lot. Hey, nothing against Cam Robinson. I've heard some things about, his time in Jacksonville. I heard some things about his time in Minnesota. Sometimes they say he can be a little bit unmotivated. That's neither here nor there. I don't know Cam Robinson personally. I'm going to be able to watch him now. I didn't watch every one of Cam Robinson's game. I only watched games. I only watched him when they played against the Texans, when he was with Jacksonville. That's it. And then I watched him in that playoff game with Minnesota against the Los Angeles Rams. And I seen what a rookie and Jared Verse was able to do. And if Verse was able to do that, Daniil Hunter is like Thor, pretty much. He's like Thor. And he's so powerful and he's so smart and he has all these moves that he uses. And if Cam Robinson isn't ready, it's going to be Daniil's job to help him get ready. But you don't want CJ shell-shocked coming out of training camp. And then Blake Fisher, on a previous podcast, you all remember me saying, Blake Fisher, last time I seen Blake Fisher, he looked like a tight end. Not a big tight end either. I'm talking about like one of them small. What I mean by small, I'm talking about body size, not height. But he looked like he needed to put on some weight before training camp starts. So on Wednesday, I'll get an opportunity to see how he looks. But he was a small right tackle. You can't be that against you can't be that way going up against Will, who is gotten better, who has gotten stronger, who has improved himself on getting off the line. You're not going to be able to be that size unless you got to be strong, because Will is a handful. And all he's been doing is learning new moves, learning new plays, watching how he messed up last season. Will studies film like no other, like he watches film. Last season, Rod Wright said that right after the wild card game, right after the wild card game, which was on a Saturday, the wild card game against the Chargers, he said on that Saturday, they played on Saturday. So on that Sunday, the coaches are coming in to watch the film. They gave the players a day off. Coach Wright said when he walked into the film room, Will Anderson was already in the room watching film. By the time he got into the room, Will was already telling him where he had messed up. And I'm talking about Will. Will was telling Coach Wright where he had messed up and how he needed to improve and play better going into the next week against the Kansas City Chiefs. That's the kind of studying that he does. That's how focused he is on wanting to be better. Blake Fisher, I'm going to need you to have that same attitude. I'm going to need you to have that same fervor. I'm going to say, and don't get me wrong. I've talked to Blake on numerous occasions. He has it. He has it as well. He don't like to get beat. He doesn't like to get beat, and he has an attitude, whereas if you beat me, you're going to have to beat me. That's why I want to see him come back with more weight on his body and stronger to be able to handle that matchup against Will. Because if he's able to handle the matchup against Will, and it's just like what we talked about with the previous, it's just like what we talked about with the previous, with the previous matchups. Look, Will ain't gonna win every rep. Blake ain't gonna win every rep. Daniil ain't gonna win every rep. Cam ain't gonna win every rep. But it's Cam Robinson and Blake Fisher's job to make sure that they win as many reps as they can. Because Will and Daniil, they trying to get to CJ. It's their jobs to protect CJ. And if you don't do that the right way, there's gonna be trouble. I'm so happy that I'm back. And I'm happy we got a sponsor in Easy Honda. Y'all make sure y'all go see Laura Williams over at Easy Honda if you need a new vehicle or used vehicle or a vehicle. If you got a business, you got a business that needs a fleet of cars. Laura can make it happen. I speak from that personally because Laura has helped my wife and I obtain vehicles, and she's a very, very, very good person. Hey, we back, y'all. I'm so happy. I'm so happy. Just like I said last week, hey, the black hat is back. The black cowboy hat is back. And with the black cowboy hat being back, you already know that means business. Make sure that you're following me on the app. You know what? My bad. You've been tuned into the Texas Tailgate Talk podcast. I'm your host, Big Sarge. Make sure you follow me on the app formerly known as Twitter. Make sure you follow me on the app formerly known as look at that, man. Hey, look, I'm sorry. I'm not editing this because it's been a while. So I got to get back on the bike. I know how to ride a bike. It's just been a minute since I rode a bike. So give me a second. You've been tuning to the Texas Tailgate Talk podcast. I'm your host, Big Sarge. Make sure you follow me on the app formerly known as Twitter at Big Sarge Sports with a Z at the end. Follow me on the Tick and the Talk at Big Sarge Media. Make sure you are subscribed to the Texas Tailgate Talk podcast and YouTube channel, all one word, Texans Tailgate Talk. Make sure you follow me on the on Instagram at Big Sarge Sports with the Z at the end. Because we do everything for the gram. And go to www.bigsargemedia.com as I will have daily articles starting Thursday morning. So Wednesday I'm going to write them, and by Thursday they will be up along with another podcast and another Texas happy hour. There will be on the Wednesday afternoon, probably around about 5:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. There will be a Texas happy hour because hey, look, we gotta, we gotta talk about what went on the first day of training camp, right? Right. Big Sarge, I'm out.
Big Sarge.